I was a software engineer with a secret. For 2 years, I had been building a specialized security startup while working my corporate day job, pouring my heart into code that could change everything. Then came the day my wife Melanie stood in our living room screaming, "You're a total failure, I'm taking the kids and all our money," as she drained our accounts. Her brother Travis sneered worthless bum while bashing in my car windows. They never expected me to smirk as they left. Before I tell you how my entire life was almost destroyed and how I turned the tables in just 48 hours, drop a comment, letting me know where you're watching from, and hit subscribe if you've ever been underestimated by someone who should have known better. I met Melanie 6 years ago at a company Christmas party. I was a junior programmer at TechVision, a large software corporation where I had landed my first serious job after college. Melanie worked in marketing, and she radiated confidence in a way that immediately drew me to her. With her perfectly styled blonde hair, designer clothes, and magnetic personality, she seemed worlds apart from the awkward coders I spent my days with. "You know, programmers are going to rule the world someday," she told me that night over champagne. "And the smart ones who climb the ladder, they will be set for life." Our courtship was fast and intense. Within 6 months we were living together, and at the 1-year mark I proposed. Looking back, there were warning signs I ignored in my infatuation. Melanie constantly pushed me about promotions, salary negotiations, and career advancement opportunities. What I initially mistook as ambitious drive and belief in my potential was actually something else entirely, a materialistic focus that would eventually become the cornerstone of our conflicts. Dale Jason got promoted to senior developer, and he started 3 months after you, she would point out over dinner. "Did you talk to your manager about that team lead position? We cannot afford that house in Lakeside if you stay at your current level." I loved my work, but not the corporate politics. What truly fascinated me was developing elegant security solutions, specifically a novel encryption method for financial transactions that could potentially revolutionize online banking security. But whenever I spoke about my interests, Melanie's eyes would glaze over. "That sounds great, honey, but does it come with a corner office and 6-figure bonus?" she would reply. 3 years into our marriage, Melanie gave birth to our twins, Emma and Ethan. Those first moments holding my children in the hospital were the purest joy I had ever known. Fatherhood transformed me, giving my work and ambitions new purpose. I wanted to build something meaningful that could provide for them long-term, not just climb a corporate ladder for appearances. As the twins grew from infants to toddlers, the distance between Melanie and me widened. She returned to work quickly, hiring a nanny that strained our budget. Meanwhile, I found myself taking on more of the parenting responsibilities, often working from home to be with the children when the nanny's hours ended. Those evenings with Emma and Ethan became the highlight of my days, reading stories, building block towers, and explaining simple coding concepts that made them giggle. Melanie's disappointment in our lifestyle became increasingly apparent. She would come home late from work events, smelling of expensive wine, complaining about our modest home, and my company-issue sedan parked in the driveway. "Travis just bought Jennifer a Range Rover for her birthday," she mentioned casually after one such evening. Her brother Travis had made money in real estate development, mostly building luxury condos that his wealthy college friends invested in. He flaunted his success at every family gathering, always with a subtle dig at my career choice. "When are you going to step up?" Dale Travis had asked at last Thanksgiving, slapping my back too hard. "A man should provide properly for his family. My sister deserves better than this middle-class existence." What neither of them knew was that 18 months earlier I had begun dedicating every spare moment to developing my security software. After the twins were asleep, I would work until 2 or 3 in the morning building and refining my creation. I registered an LLC, filed preliminary patents, and began quiet conversations with industry contacts about its potential. A few early testers had provided encouraging feedback, suggesting my solution addressed critical vulnerabilities that existing systems missed. 3 months ago, things took a dark turn. Melanie had left her phone unlocked on the counter while showering. A text notification caught my eye. "Consultation confirmed for Thursday at 2 p.m. Harrington Law, Divorce, and Family Practice." My stomach dropped. That night, after Melanie was asleep, I checked our joint accounts and discovered she had been siphoning money into a separate account for months. Small amounts that would not immediately raise alarms, but substantial over time. Further investigation revealed searches on her laptop for how to get full custody in a divorce and hiding assets from spouse. I made an appointment with Patricia Reynolds, reputed to be the best divorce attorney in the state. Her advice was clear: document everything, prepare for the worst, and take protective measures immediately. With her guidance, I opened separate accounts and transferred my LLC and intellectual property into protected business entities. I installed legal security cameras in our home's common areas and began keeping detailed records of my time with the children, all while maintaining an outward appearance of normalcy, waiting to see what Melanie would do next. The morning everything exploded started like any other Tuesday. I made breakfast for the twins, helped them dress, and saw them off with the nanny for their playgroup. Melanie had left early for a breakfast meeting with clients. Around 10 a.m., I received an email that made my heart race. Vincent Keller, a prominent tech investor known for backing successful security startups, wanted to discuss my software. He suggested a video call in 30 minutes. This was the opportunity I had been working toward: validation that my late nights and sacrifices might pay off. The call began positively. Vincent was impressed with the demo and asked insightful questions about scalability and implementation. We were discussing potential valuation figures when I heard the front door slam. Melanie was not supposed to be home until evening. Her heels clicked aggressively across the hardwood floor as she entered my home office without knocking. Her face contorted when she saw my screen displaying complex code and financial projections. "Is this why our family is struggling?" she demanded, not caring that I was in the middle of the most important business call of my life. "Playing with your little computer projects while we can barely afford the lifestyle we deserve." I quickly explained to Vincent that I needed a moment and muted the call. "Melanie, this is important. I will explain everything after." "No. I am done waiting for you to become successful." She grabbed a stack of my notes from the desk and threw them across the room. 6 years wasted on your potential. Meanwhile, Travis has 3 vacation homes and just bought Jennifer a $20,000 diamond bracelet. I tried to explain that the investor on my screen was discussing 7-figure funding, but she was beyond listening. Her face reddened as she screamed words that cut deep. "You are a total failure, Dale. I am taking the kids, and all our money. I have already spoken with my attorney. You can keep your pathetic coding games." She pulled out her phone and began frantically tapping. With horror, I realized she was accessing our remaining joint accounts, the ones I had maintained with enough money to avoid suspicion. "Melanie, stop. What you are doing could be considered." "Considered what?" "Smart, strategic. Something you would never have the backbone to do." She laughed bitterly. "I have been planning this for months. The nanny is bringing the kids directly to my mother's house today. They will not be coming back here." My mind raced to the twins, wondering how confused and frightened they must be. Before I could respond, Melanie was on the phone with Travis. "He is just sitting here. Come over and help me finish this. Bring your truck for my things." She hung up and glared at me. "Travis was right about you all along. A real man would have made something of himself by now." I ended the call with Vincent, promising to reconnect later, and tried to reason with Melanie as she stormed through the house grabbing photo albums, jewelry, and electronics. 20 minutes later, Travis's oversized pickup screeched into our driveway. He burst through the door without knocking, his 6'3" frame imposing in our modest living room. "Always knew it would come to this," he sneered, looking around our home with disgust. "My sister wasted her best years on a nobody." While Melanie continued gathering her belongings upstairs, Travis circled me like a predator. "Got anything to say for yourself, tech boy?" "This is between Melanie and me," I said calmly. "There are legal ways to handle divorce." "Legal ways," he laughed. "Like your little security camera over there. Think that scares anyone?" My heart jumped. He had noticed one of the cameras. I kept my face neutral, but inside I felt a surge of validation for my foresight. Travis continued. "You know what happens to men who cannot protect what is theirs." Without warning, he grabbed my laptop containing local copies of my project files and smashed it against the wall. "Travis, stop," I shouted, moving to collect the broken pieces. "Or what? You will code me to death." He shoved me aside and headed outside. I followed him to see him circling my car with a baseball bat from his truck. Nice, reliable sedan. Very sensible. Very you. The first swing shattered my driver's side window. The second dented the hood. I stood on the porch watching him destroy the vehicle I used to drive our children to doctor appointments and play dates. Neighbors peered from behind curtains, but no one intervened. Melanie emerged with suitcases, smiling at the destruction. The kids and I deserve better than anything you could provide. Travis loaded her bags while she made one final call. The car will pick me up at Mom's. Yes, the accounts are done. She looked at me with cold eyes. The nanny quit, by the way. I told her we could not afford her anymore, since you decided to play entrepreneur instead of being a responsible provider. As they prepared to leave, I did something that visibly unsettled them both. I smiled. Not an angry smile or a broken one. A confident, knowing smile that made Melanie pause mid-step. "What are you smiling about?" she demanded. "You have nothing left." "We will see," I replied quietly. Their confusion at my calm demeanor quickly turned to renewed anger. Travis revved his truck engine, aggressively yelling obscenities as they pulled away. The last thing I saw was Melanie on her phone, already recounting her victorious escape to someone else. I stood alone in our half-empty house, surrounded by scattered papers and broken glass, the silence deafening after their chaotic departure. But unlike what they assumed, I was not broken. I walked to my phone and made a call. "Patricia, it is happening. Exactly as we prepared for." The moment Melanie and Travis disappeared down the street, my emergency plan activated. Patricia Reynolds had prepared me for this worst-case scenario, and now every piece would need to fall perfectly into place. First, I backed up the security footage to multiple cloud locations capturing Travis destroying my property. Melanie's admission to planning the divorce for months, and her statements about taking the children to punish me rather than out of concern for their well-being. "Send me everything immediately," Patricia instructed over the phone. "I will have emergency motions filed within the hour." "Where are the children now?" "With my mother-in-law," according to Melanie. I replied already, getting into my Uber to Patricia's office. "She plans to leave town with them tomorrow." "Not if I can help it," Patricia said firmly. "Your documentation of being their primary caregiver while maintaining full-time employment is compelling. And those recordings of Melanie stating she only wanted custody for financial support will be damning." 3 months earlier, after discovering Melanie's consultation with a divorce attorney, I had met with Patricia to understand my options. Her reputation for handling high-conflict divorces was well-earned. "Most people come to me after the bomb has exploded," she had explained during our first meeting. "You have the rare advantage of seeing the fuse being lit." Under her guidance, I had meticulously documented my parental involvement photos of me making meals, helping with bath time, attending doctor appointments. I had spreadsheets showing the hours Melanie spent away from home compared to my time with the children. I had recordings of Melanie stating to her friend Jenna that kids are just leverage for better support payments. Most crucially, I had legally separated my software business from our marital assets by establishing it before Melanie's documented plans for divorce began. The LLC ownership was protected by ironclad corporate documentation showing my sole intellectual contribution. From Patricia's office, we filed for an emergency financial injunction to freeze all accounts that Melanie had drained that morning. We requested temporary emergency custody based on risk of parental abduction. We submitted evidence of Travis's property destruction and intimidation. "Now comes the hardest part," Patricia said as we finished the filings. "We wait." I checked into a small hotel, unable to return to my vandalized home. I called Vincent the investor and apologetically explained the situation. To my surprise, he was understanding. "Family law situations are unfortunately common in startup funding," he said. "If anything, your preparation impresses me. Let's reconnect tomorrow to finalize terms." That night was one of the longest of my life. I lay awake thinking about Emma and Ethan, wondering if they were frightened, if they thought I had abandoned them. The twins had just turned 3, old enough to sense tension, but too young to understand adult conflicts. Every hour dragged painfully as I waited for legal wheels to turn. The next morning, Patricia called with an update. "The judge reviewed our emergency filing and has scheduled a hearing for tomorrow at 9 a.m. The financial accounts have been temporarily frozen, and Melanie has been served. Notice that she cannot leave the county with the children." "Has she responded?" I asked. "Oh yes. Her attorney is arguing that you are an absent workaholic who suddenly wants custody to avoid support payments. Standard tactics." Patricia sounded unfazed. "They have no idea what evidence we have." I spent that day securing my future on 2 fronts, finalizing the initial investment deal for my software company and preparing for the custody hearing. Vincent committed to $1 million in seed funding, with a company valuation that made me a paper millionaire overnight. Meanwhile, Patricia drilled me on remaining calm during the hearing no matter what accusations were leveled. At exactly the 47-hour mark since Melanie's departure, I received the call that would change everything. The judge had reviewed the video evidence privately in chambers and had made an extraordinary decision ahead of the scheduled hearing. She's ordering the children returned to the family home immediately, with you as the residential parent pending further proceedings. Patricia explained excitement in her normally composed voice. The financial freeze remains in place, and there's a temporary restraining order against Travis. Dale, this almost never happens without a formal hearing first. As I hung up the phone, I allowed myself the first deep breath in months. The countermove had worked. Now I just had to face Melanie in court. The courtroom was smaller than I expected, with dark wood paneling and the solemn atmosphere of life-altering decisions. I sat with Patricia at the plaintiff's table, dressed in my best suit, a folder of evidence before us. When Melanie entered with her attorney, a slick, silver-haired man in an expensive suit, she looked confident until she saw me. The shock on her face when our eyes met told me she had expected me to be broken, not composed, and prepared. Travis attempted to enter behind them but was stopped by the bailiff, who checked a paper and informed him of the temporary restraining order. His face reddened as he was escorted out, throwing a venomous glance my way. Judge Eleanor Harmon was a no-nonsense woman in her 60s, with shrewd eyes that seemed to evaluate everything. She began by addressing the unusual circumstances. I have reviewed the emergency evidence submitted and find it sufficiently compelling to have taken immediate action yesterday, she stated. This hearing will determine whether those temporary orders should remain in place pending full divorce proceedings. Melanie's attorney spoke first, painting a picture of me as a failed provider who had secretly diverted family resources into a hobby business while our family struggled. My client is the stable, nurturing parent who has been forced to compensate for Mr. Wilson's professional shortcomings and absenteeism, he argued smoothly. She acted to protect their financial future when she discovered his irresponsible actions. Then it was Patricia's turn. Rather than making arguments, she simply presented evidence methodically, the security footage showing the confrontation, financial records, documenting Melanie's systematic withdrawal of funds months before any conflict, and a devastating audio recording of Melanie telling her friend, "Once I get custody and child support, I can finally live the life I deserve." The most powerful evidence came from an unexpected source. Vincent Keller had agreed to appear as a character witness, and his testimony about my software's potential and his million-dollar investment left Melanie visibly shaken. Far from being a hobby, Mr. Wilson's work represents significant innovation in financial security, Vincent testified. His dedication to both this breakthrough and his children's well-being demonstrates exceptional character. I testified last, speaking directly and honestly about my love for Emma and Ethan, the hours spent as their primary caregiver, and my efforts to build a stable future through meaningful work, rather than corporate climbing. When Judge Harmon delivered her ruling, her words were measured but firm. Based on the evidence presented, I am deeply concerned about Mrs. Wilson's judgment and priorities. The court finds that the children's well-being is best served by remaining in their family home with Mr. Wilson as the primary residential parent. She continued addressing the financial aspects. All marital assets will remain frozen, pending full accounting and equitable distribution. Mrs. Wilson's unauthorized transfers appear calculated and potentially constitute dissipation of marital assets, which will be considered in final distribution. Finally, she looked directly at Melanie. This court takes a very dim view of using children as pawns or leverage in divorce proceedings. Your visitation will be supervised until the court is satisfied that you can prioritize your children's emotional needs above your financial interests. Melanie broke down, tears streaming down her face. But I had seen those tears before, when she wanted a new car, when her brother belittled our home when she did not get her way. They no longer moved me. Outside the courtroom, her attorney pulled her away before she could confront me. Patricia squeezed my shoulder. Excellent outcome. Now we build on this for the final settlement. That evening, Emma and Ethan returned home, brought by a court officer. Their confused little faces broke my heart. I knelt down and embraced them, promising that everything would be okay. "Where is Mommy?" Emma asked, her voice small. "Mommy is staying at Grandma's house for a while," I explained gently. but she loves you very much, and you will see her soon. Over the following months, I established a new routine centered around stability for the twins. I hired a kind, grandfatherly nanny named Robert, who had raised 5 children of his own and had a background in early childhood education. I converted part of our home into an office where I could work while remaining accessible to the children. My company Secure Trans Solutions gained significant traction after securing additional funding. 6 months after that fateful day, we partnered with 3 major financial institutions to implement our security protocols. The valuation of my company multiplied, creating financial security beyond what even Melanie had envisioned. The divorce was finalized, with terms that reflected the evidence I retained primary custody of the children, with Melanie granted supervised visitation that could become standard visitation after completing parenting classes, counseling. The financial settlement was fair despite her attempts to hide assets. Travis was ordered to pay restitution for the property damage and remained subject to a restraining order. Most importantly, Emma and Ethan thrived in the stable, loving environment I created. We established weekend traditions of pancake breakfasts and nature walks. I read to them every night and taught them simple coding games that delighted them. When Melanie visited, I encouraged their relationship while maintaining appropriate boundaries. 1 year after that terrible day, I met Alicia, a pediatric nurse, who treated Ethan for a minor playground injury. Unlike Melanie, she valued kindness and integrity above material success. Our relationship developed slowly and thoughtfully, with the children's well-being always the priority. Looking back, I realized that being underestimated was actually my greatest advantage. Melanie and Travis were so convinced of my failure that they never imagined I could be 3 steps ahead. Their perception of me as weak and incapable led them to make critical mistakes that ultimately cost them everything they schemed to obtain. The most valuable lesson from this experience was learning to trust my instincts and stand firm in my values, even when those closest to me could not see my worth. By preparing for the worst while hoping for the best, I protected not only myself, but also my children from a toxic situation that would have damaged them immeasurably. Have you ever been in a situation where someone completely underestimated you? Share your story in the comments below so we can celebrate how you proved them wrong. If this experience resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to show support. Consider sharing this video with anyone who might need to hear that preparation and integrity eventually win out over manipulation and greed. Thank you for listening to my journey, and remember that your true worth is never determined by those who fail to see your potential.